perspective of trees pedagogy. Timur, please, you have the floor. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. A conflict between humanizing and dehumanizing education from a trees pedagogy perspective. Can you see the slides? Yes, we can see the slides. Thanks. Thank you so much. Now, first of all, I would like to express my appreciation for the organizers, Mikhail Semyonovich, Natalia Viktorovna, for your input. Thank you for creating those alternative flows and creating these areas and environments. Thank you for bringing us together as experts and researchers, providing this platform for voicing out our research outcomes and exchange experiences. And I would like also specifically thank our colleagues, also express my appreciation for my mentors. 2023 is the year of pedagogy and mentor coach. This week we celebrated the Teachers' Day, and of course, without all that, we wouldn't be able to see our mentors. Without our mentors, we wouldn't be able to achieve all that. My mentors on trees were the following person. These were Marat Gafitulin, my father. He introduced me and my classmates to trees. It was in 1986. Speaking of the impact of the trees education and pedagogy on the development of personalities, of our personalities, so this impact was quite positive for many of us. From our group, we have several candidates of sciences. Almost all of us received university degrees and working in senior positions. Recently, I've met my classmates, and they look happy people, actually working in this research area, conducting discoveries. And of course, I was lucky to see this open trees period involving unified standards. Now we see this center-specific standards, which is of course possibly quite obvious for the frameworks like that. But before that, we had this unified space. We visited Mr. Vikentiev, and we learned from many scholars in terms of value and assets. I would like to underscore the work of Mr. Mitrofanov, Mr. Ivanov, Mr. Podkatilin. I feel that these are the principles of this trees communist education, which has been laid down with this open environment, exchanging ideas, and also teaching other children free of charge. Possibly this can be possible in our modern capitalist world, to be able to promote and advocate our trees ideas. I would like to express appreciation for the interpreters. I also can speak English, but I often struggle to interpret different terms, but I hope that you will be successful in that. My background, I'm a psychologist. By background, I graduated from Moscow State University, my specialization in pedagogical psychology. I learned different approaches and psychological theories to descriptions, as well as to the development of human personalities, which boils down to organizing different educational and pedagogical systems. We learned Davidov systems, Vikonin systems, and we looked at psychology means and mechanisms, and we conducted experiments in these areas. So actually our task was to dive deep in this psychological and pedagogical context. I am now working in the field of philosophy. I am in the process of writing a work on philosophy in the field of technology and industry, and I would also like to connect that to humanitarian technology. My consultation practice is also quite extensive. We work together with my father in consulting, offering and solving tasks for major Russian corporations, and we also have a small studio where we create multimedia courses, being able to protect the knowledge from experts. So we take knowledge from experts, and we digitize this knowledge by means of new technologies, creating these self-learning courses. My main topics I would like to present today is to share my understanding of trees and trees pedagogy, also to show the pedagogy process as a social and humanitarian technology. We can speak of this eternal dispute of physicists and poets, and also focus on the human-centric technology, which is a dream of Mikhail Semyonovich. Let's start with the understanding of trees. So possibly you might hear some critics to trees and the trees community in my presentation as a background. This is not a destructive approach I'm using, rather than a constructive focus. What I want is to make trees a part of the academic science, connecting these two areas, because I feel that this will be needed by the trees community and the academic science. For that, we need to concert different approaches from the two sides. Science, science itself had a long way of evolution. The many tasks faced by trees, science has already addressed these tasks, so there are dedicated means to overcome such tasks. And of course, we need to use these technologies, these experiences. Is trees a standalone science? In my opinion, it's not, because there are many subjects, and trees resembles more a school, resembling Aristotle's Lyceum or Platon studies. Specifically, it's not a standalone science. For me, trees is, first of all, a school of industrial creativity, which is a toolkit of technologies and methods, which is instrumental in addressing technology problems. And of course, this is also important for consultants, for troubleshooters, for developers who create new solutions. Trees continues and builds on the practice of industrial creativity. We need to focus on those correct areas in the trees community to be able to preclude those approaches, to have this specific understanding of the morphology and synectics. And there is this inheritance mechanism there, which needs to be outlined. The difference of trees is in adopting these approaches and having those deep tools of analysis. Trees is quite a scientific area which learns from synectics and the morphology approach, but it's not a standalone science. This is just important to understand what trees is about and what trees pedagogy is about. Now, what do we have within trees? What are possible standalone sciences part of trees? The first one is technology philosophy. We look into the root causes of technologies. We look into the different areas, being able to understand the levels of inventions. And of course, this is the part of the philosophical studies. Problemology. Problemology works with systems and subsystems, studying the questions of morphological of technologies. It uses the key terms which are specific for the philosophy, which is ideal and contradiction. So this is again speaks to the fact that we need to focus on the study of technological evolutions. So this is a specific area. Problemology again is has been part of philosophy recently, and it can be also part of the trees school. Problemology is not yet well developed. There is an area of areas, which is algorithm solutions and inventive sciences, inventive problems. So problemology is a standalone in this area in the theory of evolution. When we look at this area, we try to work with the evolution theory to be able to address it. Psychology of this development is quite important, as well as psychology of creative collectives. So this is my perspective of standalone sciences within the tree school, which can be identified. How can we combine trees and the academic science? What are possible ways? I believe that this question is quite important because we see that we have science, we have learning, and these are the terms which are very close in the Russian language. So one of the definitions of science can look like that. Science is something which can be taught. So this is not just what you can learn, this is what you can also teach and transfer this knowledge. So this is the big focus actually depicted by Mr. Altschuler. We can work with that, and it had been the thesis, but for the practice and for practical application. Again, we feel that this should be independent of inventors, and this can work as a separate area. For me, trees and pedagogy, for their development, for their successful evolution, we feel that we need to understand it as a science. Trees is a nice research program for the philosophy of technology. We can have the morphology and study morphology of different machines, computing machines, thermal machines, being able to look at dependencies. During the last century, there were a lot of technical systems developed, and we need to understand how we can understand all these systems. We have different types, and sometimes these types cannot be combined in the technical areas. It is very complicated because, again, they can be interrelated, and sometimes it's even very hard to classify them. We can also go further. We can give the academic science from trees an approach to this technology phenomenology, which has been put through by Mr. Altschuler. We can use this approach to analyze the areas of technologies to offer a program for the development of trees teachers, such as pedagogy masters. Trees is not just a technology rather than a compendium of technology ideas based on different documents. We have patents, and we have this book of understanding the ideal way of finding an idea, which is a good resource to study. For tree specialists, it's very important to understand that very often we work with ideas, and this toolkit and this system operator, this phantogram and developing fantasy is something which promotes ideas, which is a unique phenomenon for the pedagogy, and it's rarely seen in other areas. So having such a toolkit which develops the way to work with abstract ideas. We can differentiate these technologies, so we can have this comparative technology. Speaking of pedagogical technologies, we need to address the questions what kind of common traits they have in these areas, these computing technologies or thermal technologies, what kind of common areas they have and what are the differences. We need to compare different technologies, being able to understand how to classify them and being able to identify those technological ways, technological patterns. We can also work with contradictions, so we have the same terms with technical and physical contradictions. In logic, so we have these contradictions, so this is the bridge which we can use to work between the two areas, so we can identify dependencies and define and actually describe technology evolution factors. This evolution of technologies possibly is a very far-fetched term, but we need to work with it. We need to develop the logics of technologies, being able to have this analysis in the field, being able to standardize and use the unified technology language. We can develop all that. It all goes back to the pedagogical technology. There were a lot of questions how we can cause the interest from learners, from students. If there is a technology which pops up, how we can describe it, what kind of substances are there, what kind of transform chains are used, and we need to actually try to work with students' interests, being able to attract their attention. So a teacher could be able to attract the interest of students to these subjects. So there are different technologies. We need to work on studying them and use the trees toolkit to be able to move trees closer to the science domain. I believe that this is a technical question which can be addressed. This research program has been already implemented to a great extent. Trees pedagogy. I understand trees pedagogy in the following way. Let us just focus on a number of areas. Trees pedagogy is not a method of trees teaching. It's not about pedagogy of physics, of biology. It's just another methods of trees teaching. Possibly this is not the right thing, the right way to say so. When we start teaching trees, when this trees pedagogy is going up and comes up as a term, and possibly this is not the case. This is not relevant. Non-positive pedagogy principles. I'm using the quotation of Mr. Gino, of Anatoly Gino, when we have this contradiction of a problem versus students being able to reach the efficiency factor. In principle, looking at each of the parameters, at each of the points right here, they all are important, but we can see such points in many pedagogical systems elsewhere. Again, this is related to problematic thinking, problematic teaching, as well as addressing different problems. If there are no responses provided, then we need to develop inventor motivation, research motivation, so there's no unique approach to that. And it would be hard to speak of anything else. To understand the pedagogical process, we need to identify the two types of activities, and here we need to understand that we have the teaching, understanding how the educational system works, and we also have another activity, which is the learning activity. Our education in our country is a specific type of activity. They say that it's not possible to buy education. You can just acquire it, not buy it. We cannot actually teach instead of another person. We can sell a diploma, but of course it's not possible for us to create those educational structures for another person without their personal involvement. So this is how we organize this activity of teaching in different systems. So these different systems are different in this, and we can actually understand how we can differentiate it based on all that. A system of education, a teacher trying to create their systems, their frameworks, this is quite relevant, but on the other hand, what we have from teachers impacted by these frameworks, this is an interesting research question. We need to see these evolutions, these changes in each student, which are part of such a framework. And this is the technology result output we get out of all that. I believe that in trees pedagogy, the key thing is to form innovations and values, assets, as well as having this interdisciplinary language. So there is this system, subsystems, and upper system, the skill of finding contradictions and selecting ways to address them, as well as forming the ways for systematic technology and research thinking. We can continue this list, but for that we need to have this research, and this is the research which is needed within the trees approach. Another problem I would like to discuss in this presentation is the problem of any innovation pedagogical system. In our history, we have seen many examples when teachers reached outstanding results by means of their work. They have a lot of brilliant students. The question is how it is further transferred through generations, and how is it scientific, how is it research-based and technology-based? Is it actually possible to get a similar result out of all that through the third, fourth, and fifth wave of teachers, of learners.
Here we have to understand pedagogical process as social humanitarian technology. When we talk about technology, we are still in the context of trees pedagogy, so we have to resolve this issue. You know that in technical spheres, we have this understanding of setting aside human factor. So technologization of pedagogical process, is it good or bad? So those people who will bring this technological tree civilization about which Mikhail was speaking, all this goods, how to say it correctly, so it's like graduates of technological process. And when we talk about technologization of the thing, we have formation of convergent or divergent creative thinking, because when pupils, they require one unified answer only, because you see, it's very convenient for education system, because only one question is shaped, and we understand that there is a huge corruption in locational factor, and we automate the whole system, so we enter some kind of automated testing independent from the human factor. Of course, there are some minuses and pluses in it, and we have to think about it. If we want to multiply those approaches to the creative education, how machine would do that, how it will perceive creative thing. And you see, this question is still on the line, and using our tools, we have to resolve it, and we have to define contradictions. So we understand that if we will have a technological education, that it will be more accessible in more individual way, more measurable and manageable. If we make it more author way or man-made, so then it will be bringing us to opening talents and to outstanding results. So contradiction is like that. So education should be technological, but not like in technical way, but not technological. Why I'm do that? Why I'm saying that? Because we hear in and out that one of the differences in trees pedagogy is teachers, inventors. It's pretty unique concept, but if we take in massive way all other teachers in different subjects, so there is no requirement that biological teacher of biology should be some kind of a researcher in this sphere. No, we just take a person who understands the subject, and he has some interest in working with students and pupils, and he repeats some knowledge. But when we talk about inventive approach, so from scratch we have this thing that you educate trees with some kind of a creative approach, because you were developed yourself, you were participating in brainstorming activity, you know some tricks how to do that, and it works for you. So then there is a question on the line. So this very high qualification of pedagogues, it could be an obstacle for some kind of expansion of trees pedagogy, its propagation. So this is a necessity of requirement that teacher should be inventor himself, that he could be a developer. Or you have only 5 minutes to go. So I guess that this solution is in the very approach of trees. In the same way as Henry Altshuler, from the height of genius of inventors, from that height, which was inaccessible back then. And then people were coming up by some kind of stairs, and they became more gifted. They got some tricks of inventors. So I guess the trees pedagogy should create some kind of a special tools, some tables, some tools, so that pedagogues with the inventive tricks could become more in research and inventive way specialists. So I guess that it's working organic way for us to increase the quantity of those those pedagogues which fond of trees. So here are conclusions. So pedagogy will continue development between two poles, technological and authors. So development of technological pole will be related, first of all, with the connection with the technologies of artificial intellect to the values and formation of individual systems of tests. And then development of authors pole would be created to the creative development of teachers, formation of teachers' unities. Trees pedagogy could become more like methodology basis for combination of those poles, because it offers some organic combination of creativity and technologization. So it doesn't set aside the human factor at all, but gives some skills. Thank you very much, Timur. So it was very interesting report, and I guess we have very interesting and important generalization in your concept. So some questions. By which criteria trees is not a science? So maybe you will discuss it with Mikhail afterwards. You know what? I would like to answer it right away. You see, we have to understand what is the subject of that science. Can we define the subject trees? So in chat, I send this link with all criteria description, but we need to read those articles, you see, and then we can discuss it substantially, and we can understand all criteria from the publications which were made before. I will continue this dialogue with great satisfaction, but only after you, Timur, would get acquainted to that material. Yeah, I've downloaded it. Thank you very much. Also, is there any trees pedagogy, or we will talk about trees education?
Комментарий, да, еще один прочитаю. Требования к преподавателю ТРИС не в том, чтобы он развивал
So
ТРИС, а в том, чтобы он
requirements
умел
of
решать и
trees
завершать
We
эти
with
задачи.
Raisa
educator
Victor now we can discuss it
he would
on the
result
phone.
with some inventive
Но вот этот вопрос
task.
о
For
том,
example,
Our
chemistry
next
specialist should
ТРИС
work
report
properly
is
with
the
chemicals,
contribution of humanization and
elements and
dehumanization of
reactive
education from a
substances.
Я бы вот как раз и
You see,
обозначил, что
I would define
задачи ТРИС,
the task of
вот,
trees.
во-первых, хотелось бы, что
Well, firstly,
отметить, что это
I
важный
would
вопрос,
like
что
to
у
know
нас
that this is
личность
very
ТРИС
important issue,
педагога
that the
является
personality of
ключевой.
trees
Она
pedagogue
определяет
is
контур
very
всей,
key
всей
one.
системы.
So it
Вот мне
defines the whole
кажется, что
framework of
важно
the
не
whole
как
system.
в
So I guess it's
существующей, как в
important,
традиционной педагогике
not in
оставлять
conventional pedagogy,
педагога в роли только пользователя тех
leave
инструментов, которые ему
the
передали
pedagogue as the
предыдущие
user
исследователи.
of the
Вот
tools which were
как
given to
написано,
him
что
from his predecessors.
преподаватель химии умел
For
работать с
example,
химическими
teacher of
реактивами. Вот, это
chemistry
необходимое
would,
условие, но
should work with
недостаточно. То есть
some
для традиционной
chemicals.
педагогики она достаточно,
Yeah,
для
it's okay for conventional
ТРИС-педагогики, для инновационной
pedagogy, but
педагогики,
for
я считаю,
trees,
что
innovative
недостаточно.
pedagogy, it's not
Отличие
enough.
как раз и в том,
And
чтобы
the
он не просто
difference in
ими
the very
владел, а
fact that
начинал
the
совершенствовать
person
их.
won't
Причем
just
вот тут вопрос,
know
совершенствовать
how to use it, but
технику
to
он может,
perfect
то
it,
есть
to improve
способы
it.
донесения химии до
For
учеников.
example,
Вот
how
хотелось бы,
to
чтобы
get
он
across
совершенствовал не
chemical
только
principles,
методику
principles of
преподавания,
chemistry to
но
the
и совершенствовал
pupils.
саму химию,
But
то есть что
he
он был
shouldn't know only
исследователем-химиком. По сути,
methodology of
так и
teaching, but
происходит.
he
То есть мы
should
же
be like
на
researcher,
высших ступенях
an
образования мы
inventor in
сталкиваемся
this
с тем, что у
sphere
нас
to some
преподаватели в
regard.
ВУЗе обязательно должны
So
быть
we can see that in
преподавателями
our higher
исследователями.
education
Вот, поэтому в ТРИС
institutes,
педагогике я вижу
our
это
educators should be researchers, should be inventors, and the same thing I can see in trees pedagogy.
Ага.
Yeah, something's wrong with the
Да, Тимур,
online
можно...
connection, so it's stuck now.
Просто звук пропал.
Yeah, the sound is off,
Еще раз.
disappeared.
Ага,
А
вот
щас
сейчас вас
слышно, нет?
слышно. Да-да.
Да.
Yeah, now you can
А в
hear
каком
me,
моменте
right?
пропал?
In which
То, что
moment did you
исследователи
lose
в
me?
трис
That
педагогики должны совершенствовать, да, и
that researchers
исследовать
in trees
трис в том
pedagogy
числе.
should be
Как
perfected,
химики,
should
вы сказали,
Да,
на
да,
высшей
да.
improve
степени
Ну,
компьютера.
по аналогии, да.
themselves.
Ну, вот у нас есть преподаватель
As
химии. Что он
chemistry
может
specialist.
усовершенствовать в
Yeah,
своей
I
работе?
already
Он может
told you about
усовершенствовать
teachers of
именно
chemistry.
методику преподавания
What
химии,
this teacher
но
could
он берет
improve
вот
in
эти вот
his
там химические формулы,
subject. So
подходы
he takes some chemical formulas,
к
some
описанию элементов
approaches
в
to
готовом
the
виде. То есть у
description of
него здесь
elements in the
вклада
ready-made
его
shape.
новизны в
So
химию
his
нет, а
input to
он
the
должен появляться.
novelty of
Иначе как?
chemistry is on zero level, but it should be
Спасибо большое.
seen,
Один
it
вопрос
should be
можно, Наталья,
manifested.
задать?
Да,
One question
можно.
to go only.
Вот у вас в последнем пункте,
So in the
четвертом
last
ваших
point, in
выводах,
the fourth
вы
point of your
пишете, что
conclusions,
ТРИС
you
может быть,
write
ТРИС
that
педагогика
trees
может быть
pedagogy
методологической основой.
could be
Но
a
если это наука,
methodological
как же она может
foundation.
быть
But if
методологической
it's a
основой?
science, so how come that
Сейчас.
it's
Как
a
это понять?
methodological
Смотрите, она
basis?
пока не наука.
You
То есть
see,
она
for
еще
now,
не
it's not a
приведена
science
в,
yet,
в
so
такой
it
в
not
научный
brought
вид. Очень
into
много
some
вопросов. Границы
scientific shape.
размыты,
So
аппарат
some
методологический еще
borders
не
are
сформирован.
blurred and
Но
there are
зачатки,
no
безусловно, есть. И ее
real
надо просто
tools which are
дальше
shaped,
развивать. Она должна стать наукой.
but it should be
Понятно,
science.
спасибо.